Okay guys, update. Here's my car. As I'm going through and I'm getting everything spruced up for it, of course I've got a lot of plastic and rubber that needs to be renewed, fixed up, whatever you want to call it. We've got some plastic here that goes under the dash, and from the heating and cooling it just gets really warped and kind of funky. It needs to be reformed. A lot of the plastic too is starting to come apart, and we have just years of buildup of paint and all sorts of things that are all over it, so we're gonna have to clean that up. I also took a piece of plastic that is not formed yet. We're gonna heat that up. I'll talk about that in a minute. But what we do have is a piece that's been cleaned up. So what did I use to clean it up? For the plastic, I used this citrus paint and varnish removing gel. It's a citrus deal. It says it's safe and easy, no dangerous fumes, so you don't have to worry about that. And I painted it on with just a cheap little brush, put it all over the plastic, and then took some of the green Brillo pads after it sat for a couple of hours, and you can see that it cleaned up pretty nicely once everything kind of loosened up on it. Now the rubber parts, right, these were a little bit more interesting because they had all sorts of buildup, but also it's rubber, so you want it to be a little bit elastic. I found online this rubber renew, and it's like danger, it's gonna kill you. It is pretty potent, so you want to be careful with it. But when you put it on I just put on some rubber gloves, and you put it on like a paper towel or something like that, and you rub it on here. It kind of has a minty a minty smell, and I didn't really taste any of it. I wouldn't advise that. Anyway, it cleans it up pretty good, and it does bring the elasticity back to the rubber. It's not brand new. There was some question about will it heal the rubber, so if it's cracked, will it kind of heal back together? I didn't notice any of that, but I did notice that it cleaned up pretty nicely, and you'll see some of these pieces, these were all dried out. It added some more of the moisture back, brought the elasticity back, and it almost looks like a fairly new piece. So you can see these pieces, they didn't really have any give on them, and they're pretty rubbery. So I'm pretty happy with that. I got a little bag of just all the other pieces that I did, and these were some door stops, and I read somewhere that if it loses moisture, put some WD-40 into a bag, and then let it sit for a while, and it'll bring its elasticity back. So this was pretty dry, and you can see it did bring a lot of the elasticity back, so I'm going to say that it mildly worked. I don't know how long it actually took to absorb that in there, but it did take a long time. It's probably sat in there for a couple of months, but not too bad. It was pretty dry. So a couple of these pieces, I'm going to take the plastic, and I'm going to have to figure out how to get it to shape so that it's straight again, because you can kind of see this is pretty bent up and kind of a little bit warped. When it came to forming the plastic parts to make them straight again, I was told that if you heat it up to almost boiling, you'll get the the plastic to a place where it will become pliable, and when it cools down, it will hold that shape. So I got myself a tamale pot, and you can see in the bottom here, it's got a little grid that stays on there, so that way no pieces actually touch the bottom where the flame's at, so it won't melt the plastic, but it'll heat it up. I've got a little bit too big, but I figured I'll probably take it and flip it around midway through. I'll show you guys how that ends up in a different video, but hopefully you guys are well on your way of getting the rubber parts and the plastic parts cleaned up, situated. At least you've got the citrus and varnish paint remover, saw how that worked, the rubber renew, so kind of an interesting thing there. Definitely use a well ventilated area, it says that on there, but it is a very strong deal. If you need some actual parts that are replacement parts for your 64 Lincoln, maybe a lot of the years of Lincoln, Steelerubber or Rubbertherightway. They're both great companies, have a lot of knowledge, and you can find them online. So Steelerubber, Rubber the Right Way. Hopefully you guys are well on your way to having your parts reinstalled, revitalized, whatever you want to call it. Here's the update.